feeling over fine, and I'm speeding down that line. Somebody get me a shot. You better call up a doctor. Feeling high. I'm overloaded, baby. I say bye-bye. Somebody get me a doctor. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter from deep in the bowels of our underground lair, coming at you with more veracity than a Joe Biden tour of the southern border. How you doing?
What did that last? A whole 30 seconds? What did he do? Walk into the door when he got there?
Oh, it was not pretty.
I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I thankfully didn't watch it because
Yeah.
I learned nothing by watching that man, listening to that man. I feel my brain rotting the second he starts talking.
Yeah. Well,
Now, somebody getting me a doctor. Now, I've heard that song a million times, but
yeah.
I am blanking on who did it. So, I know I'm going to kick myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to kick myself. What is it? Is it Kiss?
No.
It's Led Zeppelin.
No. Good guess in the era.
So 70s rock.
Yeah.
I'm blanking.
Somebody get me a doctor from Van Halen.
Yeah. Probably picked that thinking I'd get it too.
Yeah.
God, wow, what a horrible co-host I am. Can't get a Van Halen song right. I mean, that's pretty bad. I mean, I did know the song though.
I'm sure you did.
Jay, I want to say one thing. Let me just say this. I'm going to start this show. I'm just going to jump right into it.
Well, I know you're going to do that, but this was one of the first when CDs came out. This was one of the first CDs I got, Van Halen 2.
No kidding.
Yeah. I know everybody was that was worth derailing that.
Now CDs became like really the thing in the 90s. When did you get a CD player?
Yeah, it would have been early 90s.
Early 90s?
Yeah, maybe late 80s. Probably 90.
I don't remember.
91.
Yeah, I remember I was kind of, I didn't get a tape, or I didn't get a CD player, and then we got a car with a CD player in it.
Yeah.
My parents bought a horrible maroon minivan, like around like 92-ish.
Yeah.
And that's when, and I had to take my dad's Merle Haggard CD out of there once in a while and put on, and I love Merle.
Yeah.
But my dad could listen to the same thing for days and days and it wouldn't faze him.
Yeah.
I had to put something in there. So I was around that time I started buying CDs.
Yeah.
So I was in high school. That makes sense.
Yeah. Van Halen 2 and Living Colors Vivid. Those were my first two.
I can remember my first group of them because one was a Garth Brooks CD.
Yeah.
One was a Pearl Jam CD.
Oh, yeah. That was
around that time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna blank. I'm gonna blank on what I don't remember. But and then I got one of those Now CDs, those compilations from or Party Time or something like that.
Yeah.
Like it was like late 80s. Various artists thing. I remember having a couple of those too. Dance Party maybe or something like that.
I never had anything like that.
Well, you just don't have. You're just not as cultured as I am.
That's true.
Why. So
that's true.
Anyhow,
One trick pony over here.
anyhow, Jay,
Yes.
I want to say one thing.
Okay.
See, I told you so.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to say two things. One, when we sat here about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and Biden had that horrible press conference, and that report came out. That was about 3 weeks ago now. And I remember saying, and brilliant things just come to my mind. I didn't even plan on saying this. Just brilliant thoughts always enter. And I said, look at the numbers, look at the polling in 2, 3, 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Don't look at a knee-jerk poll. Don't assume everybody's as in tune to this as we are. And Jay,
Yes.
see, I told you so. And I've been following this. Now, look, I don't know what to make.
Ugly.
I don't know what to make of polls anymore.
Yeah.
But 270 to win.
Yes.
I said one of the states, and I said this a month or two ago, to look out for, to be a swing state that nobody's seeing coming.
Yeah.
One of them was the state of Maine.
Yes.
Now, you might look at that state and go, okay, it hasn't voted Republican since 1988. However, that's a state where they're trying to get Trump off the ballot.
Yeah.
Where they split the electoral vote, and he has won the one.
Yeah.
Both times he's run, lost the other one.
Right.
A poll came out yesterday. Guess who's winning by 6 points?
President
Donald Trump.
Yes.
Okay. If you look at, I'm trying to think. And I'm gonna make another prediction here, because I've been following other quote unquote blue states.
Yeah.
Like Colorado, Virginia, New Hampshire. I will say, look out for these to start turning.
Okay.
Okay. Virginia has not done a statewide poll since January 5th. Biden was up 3. Now, What are the odds? That's 2 months ago.
Yeah. Virginia's a tough state because you got all those suburbs of D.C.
Yeah. And you've got, again, though, circumstances are different. Republicans are now in charge of that state at the state level again, which may
in
change.
the executive branch, not in the legislative, but yes.
But they have a Republican Secretary of State now as well,
Yes.
I believe. They didn't before.
Okay.
So, again, the mail-in ballot procedure, I would look for that to change in 2024.
That would be good. Yes.
Because that's something I'm still concerned about is
absolutely.
What's the plan for mail-in ballots? I mean, the plan can't be to sit there and complain about them. So, but that's the state I would look for a change. Look at the next Colorado polls. Look at the next New Hampshire polls, because they haven't been polling New Hampshire because of the New Hampshire primaries.
Right.
But you'll see them in the next 2 to 4 weeks. You'll start seeing them, and you're going to see a change.
Yeah.
You're going to see you're going to have the ladies on The View and Joe Scarborough, and they're going to be panicking 10 times worse than they're panicking. Now, that brings me to my second point. I listen, and I rarely watch Sunday shows. I rarely watch CNN or NBC, but 2 guys are growing on me.
Yeah.
One of them's, believe it or not, and I'm just you're going to be shocked when you hear the names. One is David Axelrod, and the other is Jim Carville.
Oh, my word.
Okay?
Jim Carville?
Now,
Yeah.
Carville looks like he's going to stroke out. He's so mad at Biden.
Yeah.
Okay? Carville went, and I got a feeling, I'm just going to throw this out as a theory, that Axelrod and Carville have been saying this behind the scenes for quite a while.
Yeah.
And they have now gone public with it, trying to sound alarm bells.
Right.
And I'm gonna paraphrase Carville and try to impersonate him as best I can.
Okay.
But he went on NBC just on a, I don't even want to call it a rant. It was more like a child pleading to go fishing with his dad or something. It was actually smart what he said, but how he said it was just, I mean, he was almost crying when he said it. He said something like, y'all sitting on the economy at 28%. Quit telling people the economy's good. Nobody believes it. Nobody who goes to the grocery store, nobody fills up the car with gas, somebody's trying to buy a house. They're not buying it when you say the economy's good. Quit saying that. And he just went on and on and on about, and I'm trying to do Carville's Elmer Fudd. Biden one day says he's going to support Israel. Next day he calls for a ceasefire. Well, you got to take a stand. He lost it on. And I mean, I was laughing, but I kind of thought to myself, he's not wrong in anything he said. I mean, it's true. Nobody's buying what this administration's saying.
No.
Nobody is. Axelrod actually had a smarter analysis. He said, when they asked him about, because CNN, of course, is trying to pump up the economy. They're trying to tell the audience how great it is. And Axelrod said, Biden is in a quandary because he can't change course. You can't say Bidenomics has worked for 2 years and now say it's not. You can't say the border's secure and now claim it's not.
Yeah.
You're stuck with what you've been saying. You can't change course.
Right.
So they both were just, they both look like they needed to be put on suicide watch. Now, I'm going to make a proposal to Democrats. And I want you Dems out there to hear me out. You got to trust me on this. This is what you have to do from this point on. You've got to let Biden lose. Just run him and let him lose. And you have to focus on the House and Senate. And then you have to focus on 2026. Okay? The worst case scenario for Democrats is not Trump winning. It's Trump winning with huge Republican majorities.
Right.
That's they can still screw it up. And now that McConnell's out.
Yeah, which is great news.
Which is an admission that Trump's the next president. Sorry, that's an admission of that. Why would McConnell leave if he thought Biden or Haley were going to win?
Right.
He's just like, I'll be out. So I'm just going to go out now.
Unless he's a lot sicker than we even know.
No, he likes power. He's had power for how long?
Decades.
I think he's getting out so he can avoid the fight later.
I hope so.
I know that's my guess. Who, of course, the Republicans can always snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. That's always true.
Right.
But if I'm the Dems, you've got to break the dam. The dam can't break somewhere. It's kind of like if I'm facing a really good offensive football team, I got to say to myself, I'm not going to pitch a shutout against these guys. I've either got to stop the run, or I've got to stop the deep pass, or I've got to double team their top receiver.
Right.
I'm going to lose something, and I've got to stem the tide. Dems have to stem the tide, because I'm going to tell you this. If they put all their eggs in Biden, he's going to take down both houses, a bunch of Senate seats. The latest polls in Ohio, you should see the latest polls in Ohio.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make a prediction that Trump wins by 15 in Ohio.
Wow.
And that's going to take Sherrod Brown down for sure.
Absolutely it will.
So you're going to have to take that money and put it into those races and make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, look, could Biden pull this off somehow? Yeah, it could happen.
Sure.
I can't say that it can't. Okay. But you got to play the odds here. And you got to go, okay, if Trump wins and he's got 51 Republican senators and a majority of 10 in the House, he's limited. Now, he can do things executively, and he will, but he's limited as to what he can pass. If the Republicans gain 30 seats in the House and 5 Senate seats won't get overturned for a couple of election cycles.
Right.
That's a total nightmare. And focus on 2026, focus on trashing Trump's successor, okay? And I just think it's a lost cause now. And the more I study the idea of replacing Biden at the convention, the more I think that's not possible.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think that's possible. The idea you're going to usurp primary votes. Remember, one of the things that I think will not go over well with a lot of voters is the idea that you're going to ignore the party votes in the primary. You're going to make it impossible for other candidates to run.
Yeah.
And then you're just going to coronate somebody else on August 22nd. Hear me out. Okay. I know you think that that's still possible, but I'm skeptical that can happen. The power of the superdelegates has been reduced. That was the Bernie Sanders wing of the party that facilitated that. So on August 22nd, you're going to put in another candidate who's going to have to get a staff together people start voting September 20th. I just don't see that as feasible.
See, and here's where I think it can work.
Now, Democrats will break rules. We all know that.
I think you're right in that you can't just take somebody out and put somebody else in because you don't like them. I don't think you can do that without some small uprising within the party. However, if they can, and they've been more lax on allowing some of this information to come out with Hunter Biden and things like that, or Joe's dementia. So if you can prove that he's not able to serve another term, either health-wise or corruption-wise, voters will welcome in a replacement that they think could beat Trump. And if this is something they're planning already, they're already putting a team together, and they will be ready to hit the ground running come convention time.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know that. First off, the White House just announced last week that they think a cognitive test for the president is not necessary.
Right. That's the White House.
That's the White House
Biden's
position.
in charge of that.
But I think it would be an uproar at the convention. I think it would be 1968-ish, because you're going to have every faction of everybody wanting say in who this candidate is.
Yeah.
And you think about, well, who can beat Trump? Well, ultimately, whoever runs is saddled with Biden. Gavin Newsom basically came out the other day and just made Biden sound like the second coming of FDR.
Well, did you see the poll that came out? There's a poll that came out that pitted Trump and Newsom against each other. Trump was ahead by like 15 points.
Yeah, I don't know that anybody's going to be able. That's what I'm saying. Let him lose. It's not worth it. Just run him and just let him go and turn the page.
Yeah.
But again, and I think Biden would have to drop out. I think Harris would have to drop out.
Yeah.
Because aren't you kind of obligated in a way to pick her?
Kind of are, unless you chose another black woman.
Yeah, who's that?
Well, Michelle Obama.
Oh, well, I don't know.
Here's a theory that Glenn Beck had. He said he has no founding for this whatsoever, no facts.
You could be right. I just think it's getting. If the convention were in May, it absolutely could happen. But I think the further you put that off, the tougher it's going to be to just slide someone in and slide someone out and pretend nothing's going on.
But he said that as a writer, this would be the perfect scenario. As the Obamas, you get done with your term. Every other president is left when they're done and not stayed in Washington. He did, right? So he passed what he could pass. And then then Biden comes in, passes all the stuff that Obama wanted, but wasn't able to do because it was unpopular or whatever. And then all of a sudden, the more popular president comes back in the form of his wife coming back, right? and all of a sudden, then manages this mess in quotes that was created, in really just overseeing it and making this fascistic state out of the mess, already having the answers to the emergency that they created. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're right.
I don't know. I don't. I hope it's Biden. I want it to be Biden because he's awful.
I personally am not scared of anybody. And I think, one thing about running for president is it is not a sprint.
Right.
I mean, you're going to make mistakes on the campaign trail. You're going to, you need to be hardened and vetted.
Yeah. And I will say this about Michelle Obama, that she's not. I remember was it Barack's first campaign or second, where they pulled her off of the campaign trail because she said some things she shouldn't have said.
Yeah, I don't remember, but I remember that, but I don't remember
saying
which election it was.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
Yeah, she's not ready to do that. I mean, again, one election is not worth blowing this up. It just isn't. I just just to me, I know that the Trump derangement syndrome is out there on the left.
It's in full bloom.
It's actually, I think, as a country, it's actually gone down a lot.
I think it has some too.
And I think more and more people are like, look, I don't care if I don't like them. We need a competent person in there, whether I like him or not. And he's shown he can do the job. And I think that's. I think Biden has no answer to that. So,
right.
But I think that's why he's doing very well. And quite frankly, the thing that I always think about in the back of my head is Trump always outperforms the poll numbers.
Yeah.
So if he's ahead by 5 in a national poll, what do you think the real total is? I always say that in the back of my head, like, okay, I remember Election Day 2020, and he's up by 1, and he won it by 8. No poll showed him up by 8.
Right.
No poll showed him winning Wisconsin in 2016.
But we thought that maybe he might win here. He didn't.
Yeah, Nevada's another state where Republicans have traditionally underperformed, although that changed a little bit with Governor Lombardi last time.
Yeah.
But that's another state where I don't quite trust the system. I'm hope he's working on that, because that's a state that he's been consistently ahead in.
Yeah.
And both 16 and 20 showed a dead heat, and he barely lost them. So I don't know what's in the water out there, but it's a state he should win. He really should win there.
Yeah.
So it does concern me a little bit, but I think one of the things that's going to make the election harder for the left is if you look at the states Trump won in 16 and in 20.
Yeah.
He's really not in jeopardy of losing any of them.
No, he's not.
That includes Florida.
Yeah.
That includes Ohio. That includes North Carolina. He's well ahead everywhere. So that means he basically needs, and he's well ahead right now in Georgia, and I think him and Governor Kemp will kiss and make up. But, and I was doing some figuring on the 270 to win website. If you give him all the states he won last time,
yes,
and you give him Georgia, that puts him at 251 electoral votes because of the 2020 census.
Right.
He actually has gained electoral votes because of Florida and Texas. You had Pennsylvania for 19, and it's already at 270. That's with no Arizona, no Nevada, no Wisconsin, no Michigan.
Right.
Okay? So, and I think Michigan is actually where Biden's more vulnerable than even Pennsylvania. I think Michigan's a state that...
He's got a lot of Democrats that do not like him.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for him to win that state, I think. And I think it's also a state where... it's an easier state to get on the ballot, which tells me Cornel West will be on the ballot, Bobby Kennedy will be on the ballot, Jill Stein will be on the ballot. So even if he just loses chunks of that, and he will with the Muslim vote for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I think his chances to win that state are going down every day.
I think that those folks will go with Cornel West because he is very much in favor of Hamas.
Yeah.
He's
like courting the Hamas vote.
Yes.
But like I said, Michigan's a state where he should be on the ballot there. So some states that's going to be a lot harder.
Yeah.
But so anyway. So there's my see I told you so. My big see I told you so.
Yeah.
And then my advice to Democrats, you might be upset about it, but I'm telling you, there's probably 5 or 6 Democratic Senate seats. I think 2 are already gone.
Yeah.
And there's more that could go if you spend all the money propping up Biden. It has to go to Tester, to the guy running in Sinema's place, to... the open seat in Michigan, because I think Biden's in serious trouble there.
Yeah.
The money is going to have to go to some of those candidates.
Yeah, I guess, maybe that's something for a future show. We should go through the list of the Senate seats that are up. And
I think most states have their primaries in April, so that is a good. I know Pennsylvania does, so that might be a good time, April, May, because right now, if you look at the polls, like with Bob Casey and Tammy Baldwin are, quote, ahead, but the Republicans don't have a candidate yet.
Right.
They're fighting it out right now, and we'll see. Pennsylvania, I think April 19th is their primary.
Yeah.
So we'll see when it's one-on-one what the polls really show. I think it's way too early to be, there's some I'm sure Carrie Lake will be the candidate in Arizona.
Yeah.
So there's some where I think are a little more accurate, but I think you kind of have to wait until the spring to really see those races shape up. So, but the open seat in Michigan, I think, is one kind of under the radar. And I really think that could flip. I really think it could. Unless the Dems outspend them 3-1, 4-1.
Yeah.
Then maybe not. But they're going to have to spend the money. And just my advice to Dems is to concentrate on that and just forget blowing up the convention. And it just isn't worth it. It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they won't agree. They're smart enough to listen to me. No
Right.
offense, but they aren't. They probably still watch the nightly news. So, but what do you think about that, Jay? Am I off? Am I crazy? What am I?
No, I mean, you're not crazy. I mean, it's speculation either way. Will they blow it up? Will they not blow it up? I mean, I see a lot of reason for them to blow it up. I think because I think that if they believe that Joe Biden can win, they would want him because their people will do whatever they're asked to do. They've been loyal foot soldiers thus far, and they will continue to drive America right into the ground at the will of those who are trying to take us down so that we can be more of a globalist society. However, a lot of it's in the timing. And up till now, we've had to deal with progressives who have been okay with just taking freedom inch by inch over 100+ years. But I think they're getting impatient. And that's where I'm wondering, do they see it as something where it's like, yeah, now is the time. We got to go do this. And because of Trump derangement syndrome, are they going to really think like this guy's going to tear it all down? We're going to have to start over from scratch. We're going to have to rebuild our executive departments, all of this stuff that we need. Now is the time. I don't know.
But see, that's where I go back to. You plan for 2026.
Yeah.
You plan for Trump's successor. You plan on the Republicans screwing it up. You plan on giving the majorities not so much.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's where you have to, again, make a choice. I mean, does blowing up Biden and putting in another progressive win? I don't know. They could lose by more for all. We don't know.
You could.
So, but like I said, if they lose and they lose a ton of seats with it, that's where like 55, 56 Republicans, it could take 2 or 3 cycles to undo that. And if you're thinking like that, you've got to go, whoa, we can't allow that. There'll be another presidential race in 4 years, but we can't allow 8 years of a Senate that with Clarence Thomas, 74 years old, with Sam Alito, 70-something years old. I mean, there's a lot at stake in those Senate races.
If Trump wins,
actually, I think Thomas is 76.
Yeah. If Trump wins, how big of a priority do they put during his term on making sure that all of those elder conservative Supreme Court justices are replaced?
Well, I mean, I think that they have to make it a priority. Look what happened when they let Ruth Ginsburg just sit in there until she was 100.
Right.
I mean, you're going to have to sit down with Thomas and say, look, dude, I love you, but he'll be 77. Of course, Trump's what, 76?
Yeah, but we're talking 4 years
right.
versus.
I think you have to have that conversation with him. I don't know if that's coordinate like that, but I don't think it's wrong to make a phone call and say, hey, what are you thinking? Because Trump has to have nominees ready, which I'm sure he does.
Yeah.
He clearly did last time. But you also have to, while you have those 56 senators, if and it's got to happen right away. You can't risk the 26th election. I mean, you just can't risk that.
Right.
So I think it's critical that they figure that out. I mean, even John Roberts is in his late 60s. I mean, it doesn't seem like he's been there that long.
George Bush appointed him.
Yeah, 2006-ish, maybe, something like that. So, I mean, it's anything's possible. Yeah, I'd make the call. I'd have somebody make the call.
Yeah.
I mean, why not? Just see what, I mean, I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure Trump has his short list.
Yeah.
But to put in a 48-year-old Clarence Thomas would be extremely important.
Yes.
I mean, the 3 of the 4 youngest members on the court are Kavanaugh, Barrett, and Gorsuch.
Right.
So I mean, how important is that? To add in 1 or 2 more would keep the majority for a generation.
Yeah.
So it's really critical.
It's very critical. Yeah.
Anyhow, speaking of critical.
Yes.
Jay, I'm going to tell you something. I know that I'm not alone when I say this, but my confidence in government agencies, particularly world ones, my confidence, approval rating, whatever you want to call it, couldn't possibly be lower.
Yeah.
I could possibly hate them more than I do. It's not possible. And the World Health Organization probably tops that list.
They're right up near the top, absolutely.
I mean, they're up there with the Bilderbergs or with
United Nations, World Economic Forum.
I mean,
Trilateral Commission.
United Nations, name them, yeah. I hate them all. What they're discussing right now, and the media blackout of this is partly intentional, and it's partly unintentional.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
Sure.
Because the mainstream media here, the corporate media doesn't care.
Right.
They are, as we speak, and I want the audience to understand this. As we speak, I use the term wargaming, and I think that's a good way to describe it. They are wargaming the next pandemic.
Yes.
Now, they're not wargaming how to prevent one.
No.
They're not wargaming how to solve one.
And in fact,
how to cure one.
Still doing gain of function research.
Yes, we're still paying for it.
Yes.
Read Rand Paul's book. We're still paying for it. They're not doing any of that. No. They're wargaming, quote, the response. They're not wargaming where COVID came from. Not doing any of that.
Right.
They're wargaming how to use a pandemic to destroy every right that you have. And that sounds so outrageous. I know, just stick with me. And I'm going to say one thing, Jay, and I have a theory on this. This pandemic preparedness plan, that's what I call it.
Yeah.
They've actually changed the name of this like 4 times. Now, I have a theory on why.
Because it's about as popular as Joe Biden.
That's one theory. But I think they're changing it to make it hard to follow what's going on. Screwing with the search engines and algorithms and making it difficult to get all the details to this.
Right.
I think that's the reason that they're doing it.
Yeah.
So this preparedness plan, like I said, it's not about COVID, not about origins, not about prevention. It's all about how to use it to take your rights away.
Yes.
The U.S., by the way, the Biden administration, is not only on board with it, but at the beginning of these discussions, they sided with China, of all countries, that the negotiations for this are sealed off from the media.
Yes.
So I have no idea, and you have no idea, what the United States is arguing for or against. I don't know who they're sending there to do that for.
Right.
Who's representing us there? I didn't elect somebody to the World Health Organization. Did you?
I did not.
So who is negotiating this on our behalf?
Well, I'm sure that it's
The Fauci, Scarf Ladies, Walensky types.
I'm sure we're sending somebody from the executive branch, some secretary or something somewhere.
Possibly. I really don't know.
Yeah.
But I think the scariest parts of this are what, and again, they're making it sound so, it's designed to get your eyes to gloss over it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It's designed for, well, don't worry, nothing to see here. We're just working on being better this or better that. That's really all there is here. Don't worry about it. I mean, that's what it's supposed to be when you go check it out. In fact, they've got our mainstream media on board. Because if you look up the Associated Press, if you look up Reuters, if you look up anything they've written on it, they're already doing the WHO's bidding for them.
Yeah.
Because any attempt to claim that they're trying to take our rights away is classified as false disinformation or misinformation. They already have it out there. Somehow they already, I guess, know what's going to be there. So if you try and look up this stuff, it is not easy to find good info on it.
Right.
And this Tedros guy, who's the head of this from Ethiopia, I just want to say something too. He has the sole authority to declare anything a worldwide pandemic.
Yeah.
It can be the bird flu. It can be an Ebola outbreak. It can be climate change. It can be anything.
Yeah.
He has the authority to make anything a pandemic level issue. So what they're discussing. First, let me get into the big thing they're discussing, just like the World Economic Forum, like I said, is how to, I don't want to say sell a pandemic. That's the wrong phrasing to use. But again, one thing that I think what they're one of the things they're discussing is how do they scare more people?
Yeah.
Because people will, unfortunately, if you look at the Constitution, there's no exception in the Bill of Rights to a pandemic or to a war or to a terrorist attack. There's no exception to that in our Constitution. But people seem to let their guard down when fear comes in.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things under discussion there, and I can only speculate, is how do we get people to willingly do what we tell them?
Yeah.
Because you can set up all the mask mandates you want, and you can say social. I other than the crowd that watches MSNBC, because there's people still walking around with masks on.
Oh, I know.
I just can't see the United States falling for that again. I mean, I just can't see it. I could see it in the deep blue states. I could see the 30% who are getting their 49th COVID booster. But I think they've got to instill fear somehow.
Yeah.
Real fear. Because, again, government grabs power when there's a crisis. And then the second thing that they're really going after is, quote, misinformation, disinformation, and what's called now malinformation. And that's all over their website. You can't go anywhere without those three things being discussed. And in a way, I'm kind of encouraged by that.
Yeah.
Because it tells me that they are worried about whatever they put out there is not going to get bought by X amount of people. But let me run through this. This is borderline unbelievable. Yeah. Misinformation is classified as statements that are false but not intentionally false.
Okay.
Disinformation is false statements that are on purpose.
Yes.
Malinformation are true statements that undermine government authority. So if I put out, BS from Anthony Fauci, I am technically guilty of malinformation because I'm undermining the NIH.
Yeah.
If I put out, horrible things that the CIA's done, I'm guilty of malinformation because I am undermining the public confidence in the CIA. That's malinformation. And that's the one that they're really, really attacking.
Right.
Is they know their reputations have taken a huge hit.
Yes. Now, this goes back to the World Economic Forum back in January.
Yeah, same thing.
The main thrust of their entire get-together, the thing they said was more important than climate change as a threat to our globe.
And that's amazing for them to admit that.
Is misinformation, malinformation, disinformation, and that they have got to come up with a way to stop it.
Now,
that's scary.
Yeah, and what else does it tell you? It tells me big tech's at these meetings.
Yes, they are.
You can't do this without big tech's willingness to do it.
Right.
I mean, Elon ain't there. But what do you want to bet Zuckerberg's people are there?
Oh, of course they're there.
What do you want to bet Google's people are there?
Oh, absolutely.
So they have to come up with a way to suppress debate without making it look like they're suppressing debate.
Right.
Now, how do they do that? And we all know, Jay, it's in the algorithms, it's in the search engines. That's part of it.
Yes.
It's also in the vague, violating standards kind of thing. It's tagging.
Yeah.
Like they've tagged my podcast, your podcast, our podcast, Joe Rogan's podcast. When you click on, I saw Brett Weinstein do an interview with Tucker Carlson on this very subject.
Yeah.
YouTube has flagged it, talking about how if you want more information, this is the way they do it now. They flag it as they send a link, click here for more info on COVID-19.
Right.
They kind of put the scarlet letter, if you will, on all of these. Instead of taking them down, they put like the Mr. Yuck sticker on them.
Right.
That's kind of their way now of dealing with that.
Yeah, and that's changed a little bit. I know that we've got at least one strike on YouTube. Even the church where I'm a worship pastor got a strike on YouTube for a guest speaker that we had come in. And
you're kidding.
If I had a way to actually discourse with YouTube about this, I don't. I haven't figured it out anyways.
Well, who do you talk to?
Exactly. But because they're getting marching orders from the government, and I think that's provable at this point, that they're getting marching orders from the government, that means that they can't do that to a church because that's a violation of the First Amendment.
Well,
not that it's all a violation of the First Amendment.
They're violating the First Amendment twice. Yeah.
Yes.
What was the speaker talking about?
Oh, goodness, it would have been probably would have been 2 years ago.
Oh, gee.
And yeah, it was COVID related. So it was when they were still, they took the episode down back
wow.
then. Yeah. So, and we still have a strike against us to this day because of that 2 years ago.
Well, I mean, when you look at, let me bring it back to home a little bit. Look at our COVID response.
Yes.
Okay. And you look at one ended up being true, one ended up being not true. Who did the lying? The people who were skeptical of everything the government does have largely been vindicated.
Yeah.
President Biden, when he took office, talked about we're not gonna have mandates. We're not gonna blah blah blah. Then reversed himself.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I don't know. The CDC is still recommending the mRNA vaccine for kids as young as 6 months old. Based on what?
I mean, we've got people keeling over from myocarditis, and they have come out and said, yes, we realize that myocarditis is part of some users of the vaccine have experienced that side effect.
Funny, I don't remember hearing that at the beginning.
Still pushing it.
Yeah, I know. But that's another thing being talked about here with this WHO stuff is that the ability to push a mandate, the ability to link it to a passport, the ability to mandate certain treatments and ban others. Right. Which I think is really dangerous. I mean, we've seen other kind of therapeutic things help COVID more than the vaccine. Imagine if you were not able to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it like this, Jay. How did we? I always relate something like this to something like AIDS. Hear me out. AIDS. I mean, if you got AIDS in 1985, by 1988 you were dead.
Yeah.
Now we never developed a vaccine for AIDS.
No.
We developed antiviral therapeutics.
Yes.
And then people who are HIV positive can live 15 years, 20 years, 25 years.
How long has Magic Johnson had it?
Since the early 90s.
Yeah.
So, they're living 30 years he's lived with it. So, but imagine if the World Health Organization is able to say, no, we got a contract with Pfizer or whatever for a vaccine, and that's all you can take.
Yeah.
You can't take anything else. Now, the whole thing is, they keep saying, and this is the part I don't understand. Well, we don't have any authority to tell countries what to do. Well, then why are you doing this?
Right.
What's the point? Why should we sign on to it if it doesn't mean anything?
You may not have authority now, but that is why you're doing this. So you do have the authority, and you're bringing together world leaders that are willing to hand you over that authority. Because once you sign a treaty, it becomes law.
But there, of course, is what's a treaty.
Right.
And unfortunately, our old quote unquote allies, what I like to call old Europe, really aren't our allies anymore. I think the alarm bells might be going off in Eastern Europe right now. Those countries who used to live under that kind of that kind of tyranny, I think are not. I think they're going to be. I've heard anyway that they're giving some pushback to this. But I'm going to tell you, without the United States opposing this stuff, I'm pretty concerned that this will either be implemented or it'll be implemented the way government always implements it by, not by voluntarily doing things, but that voluntary stuff becomes mandatory.
Right.
There's some, there's some groups out there that are trying to sound the alarm bells on this, but I just wonder if, I wonder if they're going to have the ability to do that as long as the mainstream media ignores it.
Right.
There's pro-life concerns as well. I should add that one of the things the WHO has tried to push is for abortion to be seen as a human right. Now, is that part of any kind of treaty or any kind of, I don't know, that could be, pushed on there as well, I think.
Yeah, why not?
What's to stop that? So, and again, getting info on this is not easy because of the media blackout. We probably won't know completely what's in it until it's over. So it's just the usual freaking crap that, I just wondered, can I even be the worst skeptic on earth right now?
Go ahead. You're good at it, at being you're a good skeptic.
Is it possible that the WHO will cause a pandemic? Or let one happen, or ignorantly be slow to one, suppress the news about it. Is there a possibility that could happen?
Well, this goes back to my point about there's still gain-of-function research going on in China. We're involved in it. To what degree who is involved in it or is pushing for it, or I don't know, and I don't have any proof that they are. However, we saw how they handled COVID. Amazing. They had a response ready to go, right? Because they had planned for it in advance.
Imagine how fast we were able to test for it.
Yeah. It's kind of like the Patriot Act. They had it sitting in a drawer waiting for the pandemic to happen, right? And I think part of that is because they knew gain-of-function research was going on, and it's probably not a matter of if, but when something gets out of the lab. And so to have something ready, I don't know that they're backing a release of a virus or pushing for a release of a virus, but they sure want to have the controls in place should they ever need to use them.
Okay, but you bring up a good point. Why isn't the WHO trying to prevent the next pandemic? Why don't they call for an end to gain-of-function research? What's the point of gain-of-function research?
Right.
I don't understand what it's designed to do. Why would you want to concoct more dangerous viruses in a lab and see what happens?
Oh, because you're also coming up with the solution so that if the thing that you created ever naturally happened, that you'd have
we obviously failed at that.
I know. It's stupid. It's like, okay, this chimera virus that I put together that probably would never happen in the natural world.
Yeah, if a pangolin made love to a bat, then
right.
we'd get this virus. They're taking an approach that is backwards of how you would actually do it. And by the way, this crook who's the head of the WHO has been all over. It's funny. The naysayers must be getting to them because he's been on TV. He's been all over saying, don't worry about the sovereignty. Every nation will decide their own little response. It's like, well, if that's the case, then why are you preparing for something? If we're all deciding our own response, then what do we need you for?
Exactly. We don't.
No, you are setting the standard. So now what's going to happen is when a pandemic comes, the people in government are going to go, well, the experts prepared for this.
Yeah.
We got to listen to them.
Well, and that's what this is about, is getting the experts on record saying this is what you've got to do, because that is how modern liberalism works and why they've been able to make such footholds and gains in our society. As the experts say, the experts say that trans kids need to be allowed to make the transition. The experts say that global warming is destroying our civilization. The experts say that meat is bad for the environment. The experts say. And so this all that's their game plan. They always go to the experts, quote unquote, that they've created that already agree with their philosophies,
and they're funding their campaigns.
All of the experts that have done the research that don't agree with them, and they shut them out. They censor them. They castigate them. They drum them out of their community.
Them.
Yes.
Well, we've seen it happen to doctors who
yes.
have not jumped on the COVID bandwagon. I was listening to Dr. Drew's podcast the other day, and the Rubin Report. He was on with the Rubin Report, and Rubin was trying to convince Dr. Drew to move to Florida, and he goes, I'm thinking about it, and but he's been in California for so long, but he goes, California, it sucks, it's horrible here. Dr. Phil has been out going nuts about some of this stuff too.
Oh yeah,
so especially the trans stuff, the targeting of kids and all that.
He's been really good on that.
Yeah, so he went on The View and handled those ladies pretty well. He got that Spanish lady to finally shut up, which almost never happens.
Yeah.
So I think, I think that people are being more vocal. My worry is if this becomes
right,
because the U.S. is going to sign on to this. I'm pretty positive.
You mean President Biden will
President
sign
Biden will. President Trump won't, but President Biden will. I think there's no question he'll sign on.
Well, they're pushing for this by May. May is the deadline on this.
Why? I don't know. Why is there a deadline on? Could it be that there's an election in the United States later this year?
Well, not only is there an election in the United States, there are more elections happening worldwide this year than ever before in recorded history.
And let me tell you something.
Yes.
This is part of the decline of the West. Hear me out. The elites, the uniparty, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And I think this is why you talk about the experts, the bureaucracy and all that. They believe that it is too risky to leave decisions in the hands of the people.
Yeah.
They don't want us to vote. They don't want us, no matter what they say, they don't want us, they don't want to leave it in the hands of other people.
Right.
That's why I've said before that somebody like Donald Trump, say what you want about him, he's nobody's patsy. He's not going to be bought by anybody. He's not going to be the military people aren't going to buy him off.
Nope.
He's going to go there and he's going to be his own guy. That's what they don't want. They'll take a Republican that they can co-opt.
Right.
But they won't take one that says, no, I'm going to bring in my own people, and I'm from outside Washington. I've never been elected to anything. I'm not part of this or that. That's something that is just too risky.
Yes.
They just can't allow it. So I feel like the decline of the West is strictly related to zero confidence in the people that they say they represent. And I mean, you listen to the people at the CDC. They talk to you like you're a second grader.
Right.
Like you're not capable of deciding what's good for you and what's not. You're not capable of eating what you want to. You're not capable of... And this is all, by the way, this is all from the same government agencies that approve all the garbage that's in our food.
Yeah.
That allow, you have food stamps. 10% of food stamps goes to soda pop.
10%.
10% goes to soda pop.
Wow.
You can thank RFK Jr. for that. I've learned that from him. That there is No controls on that. They rubber stamp pills. They rubber stamp, all of the crap that goes in our food.
Yeah.
And then they turn around and tell us we're not healthy.
Right. Yeah, it's
like, well,
it's all been approved.
You play no role in that?
and now wanting to push lab-created foods, bugs, getting rid of meat. I mean, I'm sorry, protein that comes from meat is essential to our diets. And now they're starting to say things like vegetables and rice and growing these things are bad for the environment. So what are we supposed to eat? These lab-created things and bugs? Is that what it's going to come down to?
Tree branches, I guess.
And like that's going to be healthy for us and give us the nutrients that we need to have strong bodies, but yet the elites are going to eat all these things.
Yeah, they'll eat whatever they want to.
Yes.
They'll do whatever they want. Yeah. It's just like Gavin Newsom, he'll go out to whatever restaurant he wants during COVID.
Right.
He'll shut down the public schools, but his kids can go to their private school. The rules don't apply to them.
Right.
I'll tell you what is really worrying me is this new diabetes drug.
Oh.
I mean, this is really scary because...
Are you talking about Ozempic or are you...
I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Because they're basically promoting now, and I don't know that's if this is still in the approval stage or what, that you can go live your life with diabetes. Take this drug and eat whatever you want to. Which, of course, gives what? The drug company a customer for life.
Right.
Keep that in mind. And on top of it, it is all being monetized. Your bad health is being... The system doesn't make money if you're healthy. We spend gazillions of dollars on healthcare. We're less healthy every day.
Right.
Which is totally opposite of what it should be. But I'm very concerned about this diabetes drug. That's something I'm really worried about.
Well, I mean, it's getting trendy to use just for weight loss. And
one of the things that Weight Watchers has always preached personal responsibility. They're backing off that now.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's not your fault. Take a drug. The NAACP is arguing that this drug, if they don't approve it, it's systemic racism because black people, for some reason, are more susceptible to diabetes. I don't know why, but the percentage of diabetes is higher among black people for some reason.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but it is systemic racism now. Of course, they've been bought off by the pharmaceutical companies that have been pouring money into the NAACP and Black Lives Matter and all that. So it's a total corrupt system. But a doctor 50 years ago might see like one kid a year with diabetes.
Right.
Now it's all they're seeing is 12-year-olds and 80-year-olds.
Right.
Jay, I get myself checked. I hate doctors.
Yes.
But I give plasma because I'm such a giving person.
Yeah.
And I get my blood sugar checked when I go in there because if it's too high, you can't donate. I get my blood pressure checked and everything. I'm healthy as a horse.
That's good.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
None of it's had any effect on me. I get the greatest immune system on earth.
Well,
if I died tomorrow, it wouldn't be from anything like that.
Yeah.
So, go figure.
Yeah.
But all these things that these government agencies do to make you unhealthy, yet they're the people to go to as the experts.
Yeah.
I mean, our CDC takes marching orders from the WHO.
Right.
And that's why you got to pay attention to this. And I'm just saying, I'm just sounding the alarm bells here because, like I said, it's hard to get information of what they're talking about. It's hard because the mainstream media won't cover it. And if they do, it's all about debunking misinformation.
Right.
But I'd encourage people to go to Brett Weinstein's page, go to Tucker Carlson's page. He was on with Joe Rogan. Glenn Beck has talked about this. You got to go on these pages to see what they're planning for the next time.
Right.
And I'm telling you, it is going to be, you think a vaccine mandate is bad? You just wait till you can't travel half the world.
Right. And that's in there. They want to be able to manage passports.
Yes. But I think they're wargaming the next pandemic.
Absolutely.
I think they're figuring out how to get around this and get around that. Our Constitution, they view that as an obstacle.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of that, why don't we talk for a minute about, okay, we're talking about a treaty here, and a lot of people are probably thinking, well, a Constitution will protect us from that. And that's what a lot of the experts are saying, might I add. So let's talk about that for a moment.
Well, it depends who the expert is. You got an honest expert.
Yeah.
They'll say one thing. If you've got a dishonest one, they'll say another.
Right.
Yeah, oh, geez, I lost it, Jay. Hang on. It's what, Article 2?
Yes. Article 2, Section 2, Treaty, Power, and Appointments.
Yes, Article 2, Section 2, Clause 2.
Oh.
And I think they are talking about the president here. He shall have power,
Yes.
by with the advice and consent of the Senate, to make treaties provided 2/3 of senators present concur. And he shall nominate, and with the advice and consent of the Senate, shall appoint ambassadors or other public ministers and consuls. Now, so it basically gives the president the authority to send a representative to a country,
Yeah.
negotiate on our behalf, agree to something,
Yes.
with the, quote, approval, if you will,
Yeah.
of 2/3 of the United States Senate. That's 67 out of 100 senators.
Yes.
Now, when the Constitution was written, it was like 20 out of 30. But
Right. Now, a treaty, that they're saying, these experts, that even if we sign a treaty, the Constitution outweighs whatever's in the treaty. And that's not what the Constitution says.
no,
Right?
no, nothing like it at all. None whatsoever. The treaty is legally binding.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the scary parts of this. In fact, one of the things that they're discussing with the WHO is how to enforce this.
Right.
They recognize that free countries enforcing this, their constitution, their rights are obstacles to what they want to do.
Yeah.
It's an obstacle to censor people in a free country. It's an obstacle to not force a shutdown.
Yeah.
But again, this is where I still see that one of the biggest things they're going to do is sell fear.
Right.
They've got to sell fear.
That's the only way to get people into something like this that's not good for them.
Most of the people.
Yeah. Well, you have the people that will never do any homework and never, but for those who do a little homework, or they can see A and B and put them together and go, that doesn't sound so good. A lot of those people can be swayed by fear.
Yeah, and I really am concerned about forced vaccines, and I'm also concerned about how we're defining a vaccine. I mean, let's be honest, a vaccine has a definition to it.
Yes.
A vaccine goes through years of trials, through rigorous, it's improved constantly.
Right.
It is not something that is rushed to the market with 3 weeks of clinical trials. That's not a vaccine. I mean, you can hope that it will be. And I think what you've seen in the, quote, vaccines, the mRNA vaccines that create spike proteins for a very short time, you've seen those be ineffective. Maybe they have some effectiveness. I don't understand how they can claim that, well, the vaccine just didn't make you as sick as you would have been. I don't know how it's...
But yet lots of people that have had the vaccine and get COVID end up in the hospital too.
Yeah, but I don't know how you know what symptoms I would have had.
Right.
I seriously have no idea how you quantify that. I think they're just saying that to try to get people to change their, because I mean, I have told people, I've asked people, how many who have had 7 shots and gotten COVID?
Yeah.
Why did you go get 7 shots? And they repeat that line to me like they're reading off a cue card.
Right.
Well, because it lessened my, well, you don't know that. Maybe, I hope. Otherwise, this vaccine is totally worthless.
Right.
But I mean, but I don't know that. But I'll tell you this, and I've said this before, you ain't sticking me with that again.
Yeah.
I mean, I had 2 shots. I've said that publicly. I did it largely for my wife to protect her. I thought I was. And I'll never have one again. Period.
Yeah.
It means sticking me with squat. So
it's fantastic.
Yeah, so say what you want. But this is something to watch. And I'm curious to see it. I really haven't seen much. I've seen no coverage of this on any corporate media that includes Fox.
Yeah.
I've only seen it covered on the, I hate calling it alternative media, but
Yeah.
Non-mainstream media is the only place I've really seen this covered.
Right.
So it's something to watch, another thing to worry about, another thing to be concerned about. And if I have to guess, if I have to make a prediction, I'm gonna predict that we sign on to it. I'm going to predict that it is not submitted for Senate approval. That would that could take a year to approve something. I mean,
Right.
I can't see 2/3 of senators, even as dumb as the McConnell Republicans are. I can't even see them agreeing to that.
Yeah.
And I think you'd have opposition from a handful of Democrats. I really do. I think there'd be.
I would hope so. I mean, maybe like your Kristen Sinema types that are a little more of a maverick. I don't see it coming from your staunch Democrats that are kind of deep in the well.
Maybe not. I mean, you can believe in, all the COVID stuff without wanting to sign away your country, can't you? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, can't you believe in the vaccine without destroying the Constitution? I don't know. It doesn't sound like
It would
something
seem
totally
so,
unreasonable.
If you bought into, the CDC had all the answers and they were tied in with the WHO, and so they have all the answers. And
It's going to be tough for Democrats to vote against it, I think.
I think so too. They're going to get a lot of pressure to vote for it.
I don't get it. When did Democrats become the biggest defenders of big pharma? When did that happen?
Big pharma, big government,
Big wars.
business. Yeah.
When did that happen?
I don't know. I mean, it either happened so slowly we never noticed, or it happened so quickly
But look, I'm not going to sit out here. I've never sat out here and defended big pharma. I hate taking pills. I hate coming up with phony disorders.
Yeah.
But I'm not necessarily, as a guy who wants government off my back. I don't know that going in there and I think the best thing to do is get all the information out to people that you can and have them make their own choices. So it's just kind of a weird flipping of if you'd asked me in the mid 2000s that Democrats would support endless wars, that they would support big pharma, that they would be in bed with corporations and their that seems against everything they said 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And now it's come to total fruition. And then you'd have somebody like Donald Trump who's actually taking the opposite view, going after the middle class people that I think Republicans left behind for a while, in my opinion. So it has been a weird thing. So it's the world's so effed up. It's just so effed up. Why are these countries all so willing to go to the health organization and just let them dictate to them? Why are they so willing to do that?
I think they believe they're going to get a piece of the governing structure. It depends on the country. Now you have some countries that are just poor. They have the elites that run the country and they got plenty and they're not going to suffer. It's the people, and they don't care about the people because they're already taking advantage of the people, so they don't care if they're a part of those organizations. And then you've got your bigger government or nations like the United States, like Great Britain, like France, that they're already trying to globalize everything, and they know that that the United States stands in the way of a lot of us, and until they take the United States down, and so this is a mechanism to be able to do that as well. And then you've got people like Joe Biden and Obama and all of their ilk who are more than happy to take the United States down a peg or 5, and again, being the elites in the country, feel that they'll be able to keep their power. So
that's sick. It's just sick. We're gonna have to follow this though, Jay. We're gonna have to watch what comes out of here.
Yeah.
Because like one thing I want to warn people to, you can go to their website and look this stuff up and read about it, but it's written in a way where it's makes it sound like all they're doing is what does the government call it? Streamlining. They're just going to be better next time.
Yeah.
Nothing to see here. Don't worry. We're just going to be better prepared.
We're doing this for you.
We're going to communicate better. We're going to share resources. Yeah. That's what they put on the outside of it. But you've got to, whatever they say, and then this is I hate having to say this, but whatever they say, you have to assume the truth is the opposite. You've got to start with that and say, you know what? The burden's on you, WHO. It's not on me. It's on you.
Yeah.
And I just feel that I'm very concerned that even if we don't sign on to this, because the CDC is so tied to them, that these things are going to get recommended or approved or somehow, and they're going to usurp our elected people. Like I say, I didn't elect a CDC. I didn't elect a WHO.
No.
I didn't elect some doctor in Ethiopia to tell me what to do if I get sick.
No.
So,
but they sit there behind their ivory tower there at the WHO and say, no one knows what it's like to be the bad man, to be the sad man behind blue eyes. And no one knows what it's
really
like
sad on their website?
To be hated, to be faded, only telling lies.
Oh, that's great.
I'll throw that as a bonus onto this music from the podcast.
Who's that
Spotify
singer,
playlist? The Who.
Who?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, The Who.
Who?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, behind blue eyes. Yes. I couldn't resist. But, it's crazy. You had mentioned, what is our response going to be? I don't know if you saw this. This is Senate Resolution 81 from the World Health Organization Pandemic Treaty Implementation Resolution. It is called, and it was sponsored by Senator James E. Risch, Republican from Idaho. And here's what it says.
I think I did see this, but go ahead and tell the...
This resolution prohibits any international agreement that is drafted by the World Health Organization and relates to pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response from legally binding the United States unless the Senate ratifies the agreement as a treaty. The bill also outlines requirements for negotiating and ratifying such an agreement. The Department of State must, 1, consult closely and on a timely basis with the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations while negotiating the agreement, and 2, designate at least 2 members of that committee to serve as advisors to the negotiation. The State Department must consult with the advisors immediately before initialing the agreement and keeping them fully apprised of the negotiations. Additionally, the president must submit to the Senate the agreement and all annexes and related materials within 60 days of signing it. The president must also certify that the submitted materials constitute the totality of the agreement and that adopting the agreement serves United States national interests. Members may object to the consideration of any legislation that implements the agreement until the president submits it to the Senate for ratification. So that's pretty strong language.
Where did that go in the Senate?
Well, it is. It went to the Foreign Relations Committee, or that's where
the treaty would have to start anyway. It would have to come out of that committee,
right? And so it was introduced, and I think it said it was agreed to. Let's see here, or. I don't always know how to read
isn't that kind of an admission, though, that we're right?
Yeah.
That they are trying to usurp us,
Absolutely. Let's go here. So does it tell what the votes were on this? Oh, it's got a pretty healthy list of co-sponsors. Of course, they're all Republican. I don't see any Democrats.
But keep
on the
in
list.
mind, you only need 34 no votes in a treaty,
right?
If this goes to a treaty, so
right, and that's the whole purpose of this resolution is to make sure that Senate is communicated to completely, truthfully, and given the opportunity to vote this down.
So who are all the sponsors? There's not one Democrat on there?
No, we got John Barrasso. These are all Republicans, Wyoming. Bill Hagerty, Tennessee. Ted Cruz, Texas. Marsha Blackburn, Tennessee. Cynthia Loomis, Wyoming. Mike Braun, Indiana. Steve Daines, Montana. Roger Marshall, Kansas. Bill Cassidy, Louisiana. Susan Collins, even from Maine. John Thune, South Dakota. Mark Wayne Mullen from Oklahoma. Joni Ernst from Iowa. Kevin Kramer from North Dakota. Jerry Moran from Kansas. Tim Scott from South Carolina. Ron Johnson from Wisconsin. John Hoven
from North Dakota.
Roger Wicker from Mississippi. Dan Sullivan from Alaska.
Well,
I know Mike Lee would be against.
And so would Rand Paul, and so would John Kennedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can throw a bunch of other names out there.
So
it's just shocking that not one Democrat would sign on to that.
Right.
Who's the head of the Foreign Relations Committee?
Oh, goodness. I don't know. I would assume it's a Democrat.
Yeah, well, isn't it 50-50 with Harris breaking the tie?
Is it still, or is it 49-51?
I don't know. It's something like that.
Let's see. Head of Senate Foreign Relations Committee. We'll see what Google has to say. Maybe they won't tamp this one down. Democrat Ben Cardin from Maryland. Yes. He's the chair, along with Senator Cory Booker.
Oh, God.
From New Jersey. Yeah. So that's awesome.
Ouch. Well, maybe we can tie it to Ukraine funding or something.
Yeah. Maybe that's it. That's how we'll get it passed, right? They'll tie it to the border. We'll finish building the wall if we pass the treaty.
I think if it goes to a legitimate treaty, it has no chance to pass. I think it. I think it's, again, I worry about the non-treaty treaty, and I think that's where we all have to be concerned about. And the power that these experts have to make recommendations, as well as, and I've said this before, we've got to look at emergency powers from executive branches in this country, and we're not having that conversation. You want to stop the next shutdown, pass legislation says a governor can't do it.
Right. Resolution 81 was referred to the Committee on Foreign Relations yesterday, the 28th of February.
Oh, I see. So it's brand new.
Yes.
Oh, holy cow. Well, so people are paying attention then.
That is very good. So
It's got about 20-ish co-sponsors, huh?
yeah.
Okay. I feel slightly better. Not much, but slightly.
Well, like I say, if it is a treaty, it's going to have to go to the Senate for ratification. If it's some sort of executive agreement, like
Agenda
the Paris
21 or
Accords,
something.
Agenda 21, all of that stuff, then
Well, here's my
luck.
question. When was the last time what was the last treaty we actually passed?
I don't know.
It just seems like we don't do that anymore.
No, we get around it the wimpy way, the progressive way, and we do things executively, and that's why the executive branch has way more power than it was ever intended to have, and the legislative branch has really given up the ghost. And
Well, and here's the thing. Well, it's not a treaty, it's voluntary. Well, isn't a treaty also voluntary?
yeah, you volunteer to get in it or not, and you can
we
break
don't,
it.
Yeah, we don't have
How many did we break with the Native Americans?
Exactly. I mean, we don't have to go to the WHO. We don't have to send anybody there. We don't have to listen to them. We choose to.
Yeah.
If we enter into any kind of agreement with a foreign power, and I guess that's what I would call them, every one of them should be. We're getting into agreement with 100 foreign powers,
Right.
and yet that's not considered a treaty.
Right. Yeah.
And it's totally absurd.
Yeah, it's out of control. We've found ways to get around the legal way to do things for far too long. And it's hurt us, and we haven't demanded that the government do it the right way. We've just no big deal, and because of that has hurt us so bad.
Well, what it's been is if your team's in there and they do it, it's okay. That kind of seems like what it's been. Like if
Right.
your team's in there, they can do it. If your team's not in there, then it's bad.
Yeah. Absolutely. Looks like we did sign a treaty back in 2020 with Mexico and Canada to replace NAFTA.
Really, I know President Trump. Remember, NAFTA was never considered a treaty.
Yeah.
It was considered some sort of economic
Trade agreement.
Yeah.
Or 2018, sorry, not 2020.
I knew
still,
Trump had renegotiated
Yeah.
some things there. Yeah.
Yeah, 2018, but it was ratified in 2020.
What was the vote to ratify it?
I don't know. United States, Mexico, Canada Agreement, it's called. Let's see. And ratified by all three countries. Canada was the last to ratify it.
What a shock.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, if Trudeau likes it, then I don't, or whatever his name
Yeah.
is, that little punk.
Yeah. Prime Minister Blackface.
Calling him something else, but that's just me. But
Yeah.
But yeah, this is oogly. Just oogly. Just ugly. All ugly. And I hate bringing just the total bad news every week, Jay. Don't you get
Right.
tired of that?
If we're bringing solutions, I think it's good that we tell people about this stuff because we got to bring solutions. And here's the thing, like everything, there's a local angle to this.
Of course there
I
is.
mean, you take a look at what's going to happen. Take a look at what happened with COVID. When they tried to lock people up, shut down businesses, keep kids out of school, make you take a shot.
Shut down small business.
Yes.
Let's remember what
Yeah.
businesses were allowed to stay open.
So if you think that this isn't going to filter down to you, and you think when you have an international treaty by the WHO that the government is going to be more lax, and that if you have cities and businesses that stand up and say, no, we're not going to do it, that there aren't going to be harsher penalties for you to do that. I mean, if you remember, during COVID, there was plenty of businesses and churches and even some cities that were like, no, we're not doing this stuff. That's not going to be an option.
There were county sheriffs who announced that they were not going to enforce the mask mandate.
Yeah.
So we have bigger things to worry about. We're not doing that. We're not going to be the mask police.
Right. Now, in COVID, there were a group of churches that sued the government, went all the way to the Supreme Court, where they reiterated that the churches have a right to meet, and there is no way the government has a right to shut them down.
Yeah, I can remember President Trump backing them.
Yep.
Remember that.
Yep. Now,
calling churches essential.
Yep. If we have international treaty that supersedes the Constitution, what's going to happen to those churches? They are not going to be able to exercise their right to worship God in the way that they choose. They are going to be forced to shut down.
Yeah, and I remember the churches around here basically announced. Remember when George Floyd had a funeral for him?
Yeah.
And the churches said, "We're opening.
Yeah.
We're doing it, period." And then Walls and all them backed off.
Right.
So it was kind of like the thing about it is, if we have to one thing we got to do is back the people who are fighting the fight. We got to back the small businesses. We've got to back the churches, even the churches we don't agree with, because everybody has the right to worship.
Yes.
Just because you're a Lutheran and you're a Catholic or whatever, or you're Jewish, you got the right to do that. So to me, I think that what we've got to speak up for these groups, because it was not fair how that was doled out. It was not fair that 2,000 people could be at Target and 50 people couldn't be at church.
And I couldn't have 5 people over for a barbecue in my backyard.
5 people we couldn't have a gathering of 5.
Yeah. And never mind that the CDC admits that even an N95 mask does nothing for you outside.
Yeah, outside. No. That was probably the one thing that I think they ended up kind of telling the truth on, was that being inside or outside did matter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That being outside, that's why sheltering in place, which actually is a term that came from the Cold War,
yes,
was so weird. It's like, no, open the windows, go outside.
Yes.
The
sunlight and the fresh air is
ultraviolet light's one of the things that kills things. The worst thing you can do is hide in your room like it's a jail cell. Ever sneeze in front of the sun and see how many particles are in the air? It's like the dumbest thing you could possibly do. Go outside. It's just. I remember one of the funniest things with hoops. They took down tennis courts. So if you and I are playing each other in tennis, Jay, we're like 100 feet from each other. How can we possibly give each other a virus?
Oh, it's ridiculous.
2 people couldn't play tennis.
There's cities and counties closing down beaches and
couldn't lay out in the sun.
Yeah.
And I remember too, I think one of the dumbest things was I was at O'Brien State Park, which is over on the St. Croix River. And this was during the shutdown, the first one, because I remember it was my dad's birthday, and my wife and I, we couldn't take being inside anymore.
Yeah.
I think we were going to kill each other. And we took my dog, who's since passed away, Jessie, but we took her and we did a barbecue out there, and the place was packed.
Yeah.
It was like the first or second nice weekend of the year, late April, whatever it was.
Yeah.
It was one of the first like 65, 70 degree days. And I remember that they closed the bathrooms and put up biffies.
Yeah.
And this is where they made a big deal about washing your hands. Their argument, the DNR's argument, was that bathrooms are a place people congregate. Really? You congregate in the can?
I try to avoid it.
Sit on the toilet and what? Play cribbage with somebody? What is that? So the one place to wash your hands,
Yeah.
with hand sanitizer and all that, they took away.
Right.
And those wonderful biffies that are so sanitary, that's what they put out.
Right.
You want to talk about just what the F? It was just incredible. I mean, I sometimes wonder how we got through that. I wish it was a time in my life I could just get rid of.
Yeah.
I hated it so much.
Oh, it was awful. And what it's done and is continuing to do to our nation is terrible.
And when are young people going to rise up? That's what I'm waiting for. Yeah, I don't know why, but I think of everything I did in my junior high and high school years, and I can't imagine that taken away from me. I just can't imagine my sports taken away.
Oh, I know.
My school's taken away. My friends taken away.
Not getting to go to a junior or senior prom or whatever.
I don't care
your
about
thing
the prom,
is.
whatever your thing is. Chess club.
Yeah.
Foot fungus convention.
Yeah.
Whatever. I mean, I just can't. I can't believe.
Yeah.
That. I just hope young people realize how much they were robbed. I just hope that happens at some point. That they just realize how unfair it was to them when COVID literally posed practically no risk to them at all. And even if it did, the response did far more damage. Mm-hmm. It's like Dr. Phil put it best. The response did and is continuing to do more damage than the virus. All right, Jay, another terrible episode. I mean, that was just brutal. And you're gonna have to do something to get me off the ledge here. By the way, 2 wrestling deaths.
Really? I didn't see that.
Ole Anderson passing away at 81. And Ted DiBiase's bodyguard Virgil passing away at 62. Yes.
He was 62.
Apparently he had a bad stroke a year or two ago, and he died from complications from that.
That's too bad.
Yeah. So he was pretty young for that. Anyway, sorry about the wrestling deaths, losing our brothers. Styling and profiling, wheeling and dealing, son of a gun, whatever, I can't remember. Jet flying, limousine riding, Jay, take it away.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I want to say something to our younger crowd that listens to this podcast, and I know that they do. Also, parents, you got kids. Sit them down for this episode, and especially for this little talk that I'm about to have with y'all. I'll wait a moment. All right. You've been lied to. It's that simple. You have been lied to. And it's been something that has been going on for years. You have a generation of baby boomers that cannot relinquish the control that they have. And they have come up with ways to make you afraid, to tell you lies, to try and get you to carry their cause, whether it's climate change or it's the stuff with COVID or it's something else. So the Palestinian thing with in Israel, they have come up with ways to make you carry their cause and to make you afraid. They've used fear to make you afraid. Think about how you felt during COVID and that you weren't sure that you were going to be able to go out and see your friends anymore. And you were scared about how things were going in school. And there was a lot of fear around that and fear about coming back into school and having to wear masks. And now you need to get a vaccine. And think about how they made you feel. But yet, look what happened. I mean, we're all not wearing masks for the most part. We're fine. You know, look at the suicide rates during that period and how they escalated for young people. Look at the rates of mental illness and drug inducement that came and how out of that, like we've had this whole trans thing come and where they tell you guys that you're not good enough the way you are. You're not good enough being a boy. You're not good enough being a girl. And you really, because of those feelings of insecurity, maybe you're not either. Or maybe you're one or the other. And they lie to you. This generation has lied to you. I am begging you to take a look at facts, to go in and find out what they don't want you to know. To figure out what it is that they're saying, and where the truth actually is. And you can't Google it because Google buries these things. You try Googling certain things and, you know, act like a conservative for a moment, and just Google something that a conservative would look up, like just Google something about Donald Trump, and you will see a million. Maybe I'm over exaggerating a little, but you will see probably 30 entries about how terrible Donald Trump is before you find one that is supporting him. Half of this country supports him, and you can't find one thing until you're, page 2, page 3, something like that. It is because there is a design to get you to take up the cause of this generation that is grasping onto control by its fingernails. You guys are worth so much more than that. You guys were created for a purpose, and this group is stealing that from you. They are lying to you. They are stealing from you. And it's time to stand up and fight back and fight for what you believe in. But you got to figure out what those things are and why you believe them. And to have that, you got to research the truth. Now, parents, those of you in Generation X, let me talk to you for a moment. We kind of, for some reason, have backed off. And we're afraid of our kids, and we're afraid of our parents. And we don't want to get in there and start running the world because the baby boomers aren't giving up their power. And our kids come at us and they tell us, here's what our teachers tell us, here's what society is telling us, which is all being run by these people. And we're getting sandwiched in between. It's like a classic pincer attack where you have one group coming from one side, one group coming from the other side, and we're caught in the middle. We don't have to put up with it. We don't have to agree to it. We don't have to succumb to it. We don't have to placate these people. We don't have to go along with it. We can call a spade a spade. We can call the truth, and tell them to get lost. We can break the truth out and show it right to their face and say, no, that's not the truth. This is the truth. This has always been the truth. This has not changed. And we can stand for what's right. We can begin to take our rightful place and lead the world out of this darkness. And so that our kids, the millennials, the Gen Y, the Gen Z, are able to come up and learn how govern by enhancing freedom. You remember what things were like when we were kids, the freedoms we had, the ability we had to just go places and do things and not have to be scared. You remember what our movies were like in the 80s and how it was carefree and people just, they weren't worried about things like we're worried today. We have a chance to be able to re-implement those kinds of things that bring about that kind of society again. But we've got to take the reins. We got to put people like Nancy Pelosi out to pasture. Mitch McConnell, these people that won't go. President Biden, they've all got to leave, and we've got to step up into our rightful place and recreate the kind of world that we grew up in, that made us feel good. And we can do it. And give in to either side. We know the young people have a lot to learn yet. We shouldn't be listening to them. We know that the older generation has been trying this since the 60s, and it's this last grasp for power. We can stop it. But it takes you getting involved. It's the year to do it. It is now the year. If you're not already putting in or time trying to figure out how you can be involved, you're behind. Let's talk. Get a hold of us. COMMsolutionsMN@gmail.com. That's COMMsolutionsMN@gmail.com. Check out our brand new digs at COMMsolutionsMN.com. That's COMMsolutionsMN.com, just like the email address. And come in and get in touch with us, because we've got a lot to do in a very short amount of time, and we're doing everything that we can do to fire on all cylinders and help this state out. But let me tell you something, Minnesota, we love you, but now it's your turn to get to work.
I feel driven to push on, to fight, to strive. It's that spark that makes